Live? Almost? Okay.
Recording in progress.
All right, thank you. We're back from our executive session and ready to start our business items. The first of which is 8A, adoption of an ordinance approving the petition to vacate city right-of-way and an alley commonly known as Mystery Lane and the westerly portion of Harrison Avenue. Ms. Archer, this is you, I believe, or Ms. Wallace.
I'll go ahead and start us off tonight, this evening, Mayor and Council. So as you may recall, on April 11th, 2023, a public hearing was held to take testimony on whether the City Council should vacate city right-of-way, an alley commonly known as Mystery Lane, and the westerly portion of Harrison Avenue. There's a picture depicted of the area that is being requested to be vacated. As you may know, the city received a petition for these vacations from the owners of the two parcels that would benefit from these vacations. One was William and Virginia Anderson, the owners of parcel number 4060008-022-0105, and Marcella Barden, owner of parcel number 352401-1-004-2000. At the April 11, 2023 meeting, the mayor did close the public hearing. I will forego reading the staff report in depth, but you were given a report as to what the city's foreseeable future of the property was. Therefore, I'm going to hand it over to the city attorney to brief you on the next steps of this action item.
Thank you. So as the clerk mentioned, we held our public hearing, and per the procedures, once the public hearing is closed, the council may take action via ordinance to grant the street vacation. The staff report notes that there has been a request for a waiver of payment as to the compensation, and the bases for that request were stated in a letter which is included in the packet. And this begins at page 77 of your packets. And so with that, the request or the recommendation from staff is to approve the street vacation as presented. Staff saw no concerns with the street vacation occurring as far as impacting future use of this area. And we're all happy to answer any questions that the council may have related to this request.
Councilmember Rosa Pepe.
Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance vacating the city's right-of-way, an alley commonly known as Mystery Lane, and the westerly portion of Harrison Avenue as presented.
Second.
By Councilmember Rosa Pepe, a second by Councilmember Diener. Are there any questions of the attorney or Ms. Wallace on this matter? Okay. All right. No questions or comments?
Well, just a comment that this was a very messy process, but we got to the bottom, and so thank you for everybody's patience and letting us get there. So with that, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, there's one note in the ordinance. I believe that we had intended for there to be a blank, and it looks like we filled in language as a placeholder. But the staff's request would be for there to be an amendment to Section 8 of the ordinance. It currently reads that the compensation from the property owners adjacent to the area to be vacated shall be received in an amount which does not exceed the full appraised value. I believe it is the city's practice to require the full appraised value in these contexts. And so a modification or an amendment to the motion to modify Section 8 to say compensation shall be in the amount of the full appraised value would be necessary if that's the will of the council.
For that to be an amendment, or are you satisfied with a friendly amendment?
A friendly amendment would be fine.
Friendly amendment.
Okay, and the second is agreeable to that, a friendly?
Second's agreeable.
Okay,
Thank you.
That we will be compensated the full appraised amount. Yes. Councilmember Rose Pepe, go ahead.
And since that was brought up, I think it should be noted that we did not want to change any future compensation, that we wanted to keep to our existing statutes and rules. And we also didn't want to lower it to make a gift to public funds either, so for the benefit of the city.
An unfortunate situation, and the appraisal, or excuse me, the survey work had been done properly at the beginning. It likely wouldn't be here this evening. So, other questions or comments? Thank you for that statement. All right, you'll be voting on the adoption of an ordinance approving the petition to vacate city right-of-way, an alley commonly known as Mystery Lane, and the westerly portion of Harrison Avenue. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance has passed. We're to item B, adoption of an ordinance approving a development agreement with Blueberry Apartments LLC. Mr. Bond?
Yes, this is the same item that we had a public hearing on earlier tonight. I don't have much to add to the staff report. I did want to clarify, though, that the maximum credit amount, that is per our impact fee credit methodology. They actually have to prepare an appraisal, and so the credit will likely be much lower than the $245,000, but that's the cap on how high it could possibly be if the appraisal came in at that level. So
just let me clarify. So then we need to further our designs so we can identify specifically how much property, then they will appraise it to determine the fair market value, and then the actual credit will be given based on that dollar amount.
correct.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Councilmember Diener.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a development agreement with Blueberry Apartments QOZB LLC as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Diener, second by Councilmember Clausen. Are there any additional questions of Mr. Bond? Pretty straightforward. There's a couple more steps that need to be taken. And?
Oh, almost like a placeholder.
Yes. All right. With no additional questions, you'll be voting on the adoption of an ordinance approving a development agreement with Blueberry Apartments QOZB LLC. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance passes unanimously. We're to item C now, adoption of a resolution approving a contract with Miles Resources LLC for the 2023 citywide asphalt repair project. Mr. Lang.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The city needs to routinely repair asphalt on city streets. By this resolution, the City Council would authorize the mayor to execute a contract with Miles Resources LLC for the 2023 citywide asphalt repair project. On December 2nd, 2022, the city was awarded a fuel tax grant, TIB number 3-W-153001-1 from the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board in the amount of $325,976 to partially fund the project. Pursuant to resolution number 036-22, section 5 bid procedures, the city's Public Works Department prepared an invitation to bid, published a bid solicitation in the Kitsap Sun and Daily Journal of Commerce on March 24th and March 31st, 2023. And on March 24th, 2023, staff uploaded the bid documents to the Washington Builders Exchange and the city's webpage. On April 19th, 2023, by the 10 a.m. bid deadline, the city clerk received 6 sealed bids. After confirming that there were no objections made and that there were no challenges to the public opening process, the 6 sealed bids were opened and read aloud by the city clerk. Bids received prior to the April 19th, 2023, 10 a.m. deadline are as follows. And as you can see, Miles Resources was the lowest bid at $867,629.60. The city clerk then prepared a bid tabulation form, and the Public Works Department prepared a bid evaluation form, including applicable taxes, labor, equipment, material, and fees, resulting in the initial determination that the lowest qualified, responsible, and responsive bid was provided by Miles Resources LLC. On April 20th, 2023, the city's Public Works Department staff completed the MRSC mandatory bidder responsibility checklist and confirmed that Miles Resources LLC bid of $867,629.60 was the lowest qualified, responsible, and responsive bid. The Public Works Department also reviewed all materials and confirmed that the bidding requirements for this public work have been followed. On May 1st, 2023, the city received TIB approval to award the contract. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution approving a contract with Miles Resources LLC for the 2023 citywide asphalt repair project in the amount of $867,629.60, applicable taxes included.
Councilmember Trenary.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution approving a contract with Miles Resources LLC for the citywide asphalt repair project in the amount of $867,629.60. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Trenary, second by Councilmember Clausen. the beautiful thing here is that this was nearly $1 million, or excuse me, nearly $200,000 short of our engineer's estimate. So we are looking at other areas. There's plenty of streets to pave. And in particular, we're looking at the, and it'll be expensive because of the traffic loops, but the westbound section of Sedgwick from the interchange down to the Deloes traffic light is an exceptionally poor. We're looking at that segment there, which will be expensive, but it is in much need of repairs. So, and other, there's plenty of opportunities to put asphalt down. So
That's consistent with the study that was done to prioritize those repairs?
yeah, well, I pointed it out to our engineer, asked our engineer to go out and take a drive. And he agreed after driving the road that it's in very poor condition. Councilmember Rosa Pepri?
Quick question and one comment. Tony, have we worked with Miles before?
We have not, but they are a reputable company.
Okay,
Out
so
of Puyallup.
we have good reviews from other.
Right,
okay.
correct.
And I'd like to commend Councilmember Clausen because he's been championing road repairs quite a bit in our meetings, and it's nice to see some things come to fruition. So keep championing those, John.
Councilmember Clausen?
I was going to comment that I am extremely pleased to see us move forward with this project because obviously, as we all have seen as we drive around our community, the streets desperately need our attention. So thank you all, I hope.
Well, it's a number of grind outs and patches throughout the city, and then a complete overlay of Old Clifton Road, which is nice to have, a street, hopefully every year that gets a complete overlay. We did Lippert this last year, and have that with a complete overlay. Other questions or comments? All right, you'll be voting on the adoption of a resolution approving a contract with Miles Resources LLC for the 2023 citywide asphalt repair project. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. We're to item D, adoption of an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code, Chapter 2.60, related to city council compensation. Ms. Lund.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. At the request of the City Council, the Finance Committee discussed the compensation they receive at their January 2023 meeting. The full Council then discussed the matter at their work-study session in March. And staff was asked to bring forward an ordinance to revise the compensation for council members from the current $12,000 per year to $13,000 per year, effective at the beginning of the next term in office for each council position, which would be 2024 or 2026, depending on the council position. This modification represents the first council pay increase since 2014. The ordinance as proposed and the associated pay change allows for council to be paid in 26 increments, which matches the current pay cycle for all other city employees on a bi-weekly pay schedule. Because council members cannot increase compensation for their current terms in office, the pay increase and associated pay cycle change will take effect January 1, 2024 for council positions 1, 4, 5, and the at-large position. Council positions 2, 3, 6 will convert to the new pay cycle and amount effective January 1, 2026. In addition, the council asks that the annual cost of living amount that we currently use in our labor negotiations be tracked and applied at the beginning of each new term for each position, provided that there are sideboards not to lower the council compensation and that at no point increase compensation in a year by more than 4%. Because the at-large council position is elected every 2 years, that position would see the change beginning the next term, each term it's elected. All other positions will see the pay change every 4 years, with positions 1, 4, and 5 being on one cycle, positions 2, 3, and 6 being on another cycle. So this results in kind of a leapfrogging effect. There is a kind of scenario played out in your materials there that would kind of walks you through what that would look like. And the city attorney has sent you a memo today under attorney-client privilege as well on this matter. And both Ms. Archer and myself would be happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Give me a second here, sorry.
Go ahead, Councilmember Rosebecki.
Yeah, paper. Sorry. Yeah. I move to adopt an ordinance as presented which amends Chapter 2.60 of the Port Orchard Municipal Code related to council compensation.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Rosapeppi, a second by Councilmember Clausen. Councilmember Clausen, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a number of things that pointed out, or needs to be pointed out. One is that certainly these things are always a bit challenging in the sense that we're talking about our own compensation. So that makes it difficult. I think the nice thing about what we're going to be adopting, if it's approved, is that it kind of sets an automatic adjustment at the start of every new term for a council member, so we don't have to deal with this more or less in the future. The second thing is the staff report indicates that we're not allowed to make adjustments to our salaries, if you will, while we're holding that seat. This adjustment will take place at the start of a new term for a new council member, whomever is in this position. And I think the last thing I will point out, as it was indicated in here, it's been, 2014, the last time the council addressed its compensation. I don't think that what we're talking about, essentially adding $1,000 a year to the compensation, the thing that makes it, I think, even more palatable, if you will, is the fact that it helps in the administration at the payroll department, that the council will be receive their pay in the same schedule as all of the other staff in the city. As it's now, there's 2 paydays a year for which the council does not receive compensation, and there's a lot of extra work for the staff to be able to make those adjustments. So with this adjustment that's being proposed here, I think we solve an awful lot of issues for what I believe to be a reasonable amount. So.
Councilmember Diener, go ahead.
So I just wanted to contextualize this a little bit. So there was a study that was done to kind of figure out where we landed in terms of our peer jurisdictions. And even with this increase, we're still, and this is where it gets a little, I don't remember the exact rates that others were getting, except for Bainbridge, which was off the charts, and Gig Harbor, which was well below what any of us expected. But I think this still lands us near the bottom of our peers, essentially, if you take out those sideboards.
You take the high and the low out, we're a little below average.
Yeah, a little below average. And
Councilmember Rosapeppi.
I had one question. I probably missed this when we were talking about it. I thought regardless of what pay rate you were at, we were all going to the bi-weekly next year.
I did talk to payroll about that, and their preference is to leave the positions that aren't up for election
Right.
on the old schedule until the new term. So we'll have 3 people paid
Okay.
24 times a year instead of 26 until everybody's on that schedule.
Yeah, I saw that in the information provided, and I was like, it seems like that's still hard way to do it, but that's fine. Whatever
Otherwise,
works.
the math doesn't work out evenly, and turns out that's a bigger problem than just turning off payroll twice a year.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Cacciardi.
Yeah, I was just going to make the comment that just my belief that these elected city council positions are more about community service than pay, in my opinion. I think we're justly compensated. I've done some analysis on the amount of average hours it takes a city council member to do it, and I will not be in favor of this particular proposal.
Councilmember Shea.
I agree with both what Sean and John said. This is an awkward topic for us to talk about because it does affect the compensation that we're receiving. From what I've heard, actually, just anecdotally, there are community members who believe it's a negligible amount that we're both being increased and that we get in the first place. I remember Dorland Belling telling them what the stipend is, and the comment I'd often get is, that's not very much. And so I would explain that, well, it is considered a part-time position. It's not a whole-time position. A question was raised to me is that maybe, is it so low that people can't afford the time to go for a council position unless you're of a certain demographic? And this is not something that I'd ever heard of before or thought about. So for me, it was sort of thought-provoking. I'm actually not going to support this because I think we gave up an opportunity to have a salary commission and have outsiders look at what they think is correct for us.
Other comments?
I'll just follow up on that. So we did talk about a salary commission. I think that we all agreed that going through that exercise could have landed us in a number of different positions perhaps, but we were still talking about landing at very near to the bottom of where our peers are, which for me made it acceptable. And it's not all that much of an increase, and it's going to be managed by CPI thereafter. And I think that's reasonable to do. And it's been, nearly 10 years since the council's pay was adjusted. So I think it's a reasonable thing to do.
Last comments?
John had his hand raised.
Well, I was just going to, if I remember correctly, the last time the council made an adjustment, it was based on the fact that the Public Employees Retirement System determined that the council was not making minimum wage or even close to, based on the sufficient number of hours to even get into the retirement system. So I don't think that, I agree with Sean, folks that want to go after a council seat should not be going after it for the compensation. They should be going after it for doing their part for the community, I guess you would say. So it's really not worth the dollars.
And there still is no PERS contribution.
I don't believe this.
No, that stopped.
Yeah, I don't believe this still gets us to that threshold.
Not even close.
Other last comments, questions? All right, be voting on adoption of an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code, Chapter 2.60, related to council compensation. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those not in favor, please say nay.
Nay.
So the ordinance passes 5-2. We are to item E, adoption of an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code 20.26.020 and 20.132.060 to include signage as an eligible development standard addressed through a development agreement. Mr. Bond, this is you.
Yes, thank you. Before the City Council is an ordinance amending Chapter 20.26020 and 20.132060 concerning signage and development agreements. The change to 20.26020 adds the reference to the sign code chapter to the list of codes that can be amended through a development agreement, seeking better outcomes than what would happen under normal development standards. The amendment to Chapter 20.132 adds a reference in the master sign plan section of our sign code stating explicitly that master sign programs can be approved by development agreement. The reason that we developed this code, we had an experience approving a master sign plan for the South Kitsap Mall when it was redeveloped recently, and we realized how difficult it is to approve signage for a site that contains as many businesses as that site does. We also have a possible Home Depot store coming into the city that includes multiple pads and buildings that are larger than what we typically see, and we're realizing that our sign code provides nowhere close to the amount of signage that is typically associated with that type of development. And so we want to create flexibility going forward so that the development agreement can be a tool to provide relief for signage. So the Planning Commission reviewed this ordinance and recommended approval at their March 7th, 2023 meeting. The city has done all of its Department of Commerce and SEPA review, and the staff recommendation is to approve the ordinance amending POMC 20.26020 and 20.132060 as presented.
Member Kucharty.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code 20.26.020 and 20.132.060 as presented.
Second.
By Councilmember Kucharty, a second by Councilmember Diener. Do you have any additional questions for Mr. Bond? Straightforward, I think.
It's a consequence of growing. I mean.
I think we want these,
Yeah.
and the Home Depot project, and they're going to want appropriate levels of signage related to that type of project. And I think we had some challenges related to the mall, and I think
Yeah.
what happened at the mall and the new signage on the building, I think looks fabulous with the facelift that they did. So thank you for the work you did, and sorry it was so difficult.
And on the mall, we only gave them probably 1/3 of the signage they were asking for, which included a wayfinding within the parking lot and banners on their light posts and all kinds of things. So it's something we at least want you to have the opportunity to consider.
Any questions, Mr. Bond? No. All right, you'll be voting on an ordinance amending signage to be as an eligible development standard addressed through a development agreement. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance passes. We're to item F, adoption of an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code 20.24.040, addressing counter completeness and electronic permit submittals. Mr. Bond, this is you.
Yes, Chapter 20.24040 of the Port Orchard Municipal Code contains requirements for determining development applications to be counter-complete. The determination of a counter-complete application is important to the city and applicants in determining the submittal date and calculating permitting timelines. Since the adoption of 20.24040, the city has seen an increase in electronic submittals and has deployed the Camino system for online submittals. While the interpretation of existing code has allowed the city to maintain acceptable processing periods, clarifying electronic submittals and the payment of associated permitting fees through the code amendment provides more certainty to all users of this section of code. This section of code was reviewed by the Planning Commission, and we held a hearing at the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of the ordinance as presented. Staff's recommendation is also to approve the ordinance as presented.
Councilmember Lucarelli.
I move to adopt an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code 20.24.040 as presented.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lucarelli, a second by Councilmember Trenary. Any questions of Mr. Bond on this? I think we want to use electronic means wherever we can. Approve processes. So with no questions, you'll be voting on adopting an ordinance amending Port Orchard Municipal Code 20.24.040, addressing counter completeness and electronic permit submittals. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance passes unanimously. We're to item G, adoption of an ordinance adopting the 2023 Comprehensive Plan amendments. Mr. Bond, this is you again.
Yes, the ordinance before the City Council this evening is an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan. The city initiated an amendment to the comprehensive plan by the January 31st, 2023 deadline, and the proposed amendment dealt with the land use designation and zoning associated with the Me Line Road area. This is the area immediately south of our Lowe's home improvement store on Sedgwick. This area had previously been designated commercial with a commercial mixed-use zoning designation, and all of the development on this street is residential and single-family residential, which was non-conforming under the zoning. We had proposed amending this, making this very same amendment several years ago, and had testimony from the neighborhood that they were opposed to going away from commercial zoning, but as more and more people wanted to make improvements to their home and found out that they were non-conforming and couldn't make additions or make essentially continue with the existing single-family character of the neighborhood, support shifted, and we received several people requesting that we change zoning on this street. So we did a public notice. We had nearly everybody on the street provide a comment in the record stating that they were supportive of this change now that they had a better understanding of what it meant. This change also allows us to resolve at least a portion of a code enforcement case on this street that will allow somebody to sell their home and clarify some or correct some code enforcement violations. So the Planning Commission held a public hearing. All notice was conducted with the Department of Commerce, and we completed SEPA review on the proposed comp plan amendments, and the staff recommendation is to approve the comprehensive plan amendment ordinance as presented.
Councilmember Trenary.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance adopting the 2023 amendments to the city's comprehensive plan as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Trenary, a second by Councilmember Chang. Are any questions on this comprehensive plan amendment? We've heard this one before, and I'm glad it's moving forward this time. There's no questions. You'll be voting on the adoption of an ordinance adopting the 2023 comprehensive plan amendments. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance passes. Item H was moved to consent and has already passed. Now we're to item I, adoption of a resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding with Kitsap Regional Library for the design work for the community center. Ms. Archer.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, before you this evening are two items that are related, the next two items. The first of which is a memorandum of understanding with the library related to costs associated with a component of the design of the Community Event Center. As you know, the Community Event Center's design is well underway, and I believe we are at the precipice of having final design ready to go out for bid.
We're advancing to from design into the design development phase, I think.
Design development, yeah. Sorry. Yes, you're correct, not bid. But so the design is nearing completion, and at this stage, the library has requested specific modifications to the design of its tenant space in order to address its needs within that space. And an agreement was reached between us and the library to allocate costs associated with that design that is specific to their space to the library, and the library has committed to pay those costs. And so that commitment is reflected in this memorandum of understanding. The city will pay the vendor, who is Rice Fergus Miller, who has been doing the design work, for the costs, and then the library will pay the city back for the cost expended. And that amount is $18,683. And I believe included in the packet is a signed version of the agreement. If it's not, we have a signed version of the agreement from the library already, evidencing their commitment to this arrangement. So we have that in-house. So I'm happy to answer any questions related to this item.
Councilmember Chang.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with Kitsap Regional Library for design work for the Community Event Center.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Chang, a second by Councilmember Cacciardi. So we've wrapped up our design development phase, or just about. And Jill Jean was the prior executive director of the library district. And we got to a point where they were comfortable with the designs, but then Jill retired and Jason came on board, and he wanted to see the layout of the library a little differently, and we'd already advanced through schematic design, and now we're basically preparing for building permits and the complete design. And so I thought it was only fair that these changes were solely for the library's benefit, so the library needed to pay for these changes. And it doesn't affect the exterior of the building at all. It's just how the bookshelves, the office spaces that are their space are laid out, and they agreed that they would pay for it. Rice Fergus Miller didn't want to develop a contract with them, with the library district, so this is really just a pass-through from us. So the next item is the contract the agreement, the change order with Rice Fergus Miller for this work. This agreement is so that the library can pay us, we can in turn pay Rice Fergus Miller. So, all right, any other questions? All right, you'll be voting on a resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding with Kitsap Regional Library for design work related to the community center. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. Now we're to item J, approval of amendment number 10 to contract number 06620 with Rice Fergus Miller for design work to the library space for the community center. Ms. Archer.
Thank you. As the mayor indicated, this item is the amendment to the contract with Rice Fergus Miller, the engineering and architecture firm doing the design work for the Community Event Center that is tied to the previous item. This is amendment number 10 as to the contract with RFM. And again, the amount is $18,683, which will be passed through to the library as an expense for the library. One additional note that I meant to mention with the previous item, this is a standalone arrangement as to this particular design cost. The larger financing agreement, financing and operation and use agreement with the library and the city as to the community event center is virtually done, and it will be before you at your next meeting at the end of the month for your consideration. So this is just a discrete issue, but that larger agreement is still coming. So before you is amendment number 10 to the RFM agreement as a pass-through cost to the library for $18,683.
Councilmember Clausen.
Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 10 to contract number C066-20 with Rice Fergus Miller, Inc. for additional design work for the Community Event Center.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Clausen, a second by Councilmember Diener. As we spoke earlier, this is just the companion items. It allows us to pay Rice Fergus Miller for the library district's design changes. With no questions, you'll be voting. Yes, Councilmember Lucarelli, I'm sorry.
I just want to remark that it was plus reimbursable expenses and applicable taxes. So it's 18,683 plus. It wasn't stated in the second one.
Thank you for
Wasn't the
that
first.
clarification. I appreciate that.
They're going to pay the taxes too. That's right. All right. Any other questions? So, okay, you'll be voting on the approval of amendment number 10 to the contract with Rice Fergus Miller for the design work related to the community center. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the amendment has been approved. Items the K, L, M, and N were moved to consent. We're to our last item, which is item O, approval of the April 25th council meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Councilmember Rosepepe.
I move to approve city council meeting minutes of April 25th, 2023 as presented.
Motion by Councilmember Rosepepe, a second by Councilmember Lucarelli. I believe I'll get an abstention by Councilmember Clausen. All in favor of approving the April 25th council meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And one abstention, Councilmember Clausen. All right, we don't have any discussion items. We're on to our committee reports, and the first is Economic Development and Tourism, and I see that they meet on the 15th, next week. We have Utilities, I don't believe they've met, June 13th. Finance met tonight. Councilmember Clausen, do you have a report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As you indicated, the committee met this evening prior to the council meeting, and we went over a couple items. One in particular was the sales tax and REIT taxes, as we normally do. Sales tax, although this last month, the month of April, came in under what we had received for the previous year, we're still over the budgeted amount, so we're fine. There's no major worry other than just this is the first month in 2.5, almost 3 years that we've seen an amount less than the previous year's month. So something just to keep an eye on. As far as the REIT money is concerned, the REIT is continuing to come in strong. Doesn't appear to be any concerns there. It's not, a barn burner, but it's nothing to worry about as well. We're pretty early in our biennial budget, but things look fine. The other issue that we spoke on, we got kind of a briefing on the Bay Street pedestrian path and kind of where we're at, and everything seems to be good there, but we talked mostly about City Hall and the improvements that we have proposed for City Hall. We did get one bid. We went out, we did our normal process that we do to solicit bids. We had it posted for close to a month, I think it was. And again, we did receive only one bid. We talked about going ahead and recommending to move the award forward to the next council meeting with additional information coming prior to our vote at the next meeting. And we've asked the mayor and the staff to reach out to some of the other potential bidders. We had 6 or 7 folks ask for bid packets, but they didn't submit a bid. So we're just going to reach out to make sure that we do our due diligence as to why they didn't submit a bid, as opposed to just taking the first one. But the committee was comfortable with going ahead and recommending that we develop the award document for the next council. We also talked briefly about the financing for those improvements at City Hall. Noah provided us with kind of a breakdown on the different dollar amounts and terms and potential interest rates and how we would be able to pay for them. There's going to be a lot more to come, but in essence, we're looking at probably a $10 million bond of some type, financing package. We're going to probably recommend a term of 15 years. There's longer terms available, but we think 15 falls within an affordable rate for the city, and we can save substantially on the interest that we would incur with a longer term. So Noah's going to start working on looking at that. There will be some other projects that will be presented as we move forward that may have an impact on the dollar amount that we board, but that's for a later discussion. Whether it's an overrun on the marine pump station or something along that line. We're going to start the process of looking at a financing package primarily for the work here on City Hall. So, did I miss anything?
No, I would only add that, just to remind everybody that time is of the essence on the project, and if we were to delay this much longer, we could lose this construction season, which would kick that project into 2024, and it doesn't take much to look around the building, both inside and outside, and to understand the risk of that. We've got to make these repairs, and so it's nice to be able to put this on the third meeting of this month, and yet still do a little bit more due diligence, but try to keep the project moving to where we can start this construction this summer.
Roof, windows, and siding, and it's summer work. We don't want to have the roof off or the siding or the windows out in the middle of winter. So we've either got to move forward now or wait, till fall to put it back out to bid. So, questions, comments? Okay, more to come. The Transportation Committee, I believe you gave a report at the last council meeting, and just Festival of Chimes and Lights. I see you meet on May 15th. Land use,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
One of our big planning lists is the housing action plan, and we'll be talking about that.
Okay, and that's coming to work steady next week. Lodging tax, nothing to report. Sewer advisory, anything to report?
No.
Okay. And I have nothing for outside agencies, I don't believe. So we're to the mayor's report, I think. Everybody loves a good mayor's report. It's short tonight. I've gotten, we talked about the permanent supportive house a little bit, and at the retreat, I gave you guys an idea of what the floor plan would look like, and some council members asked whether it would be appropriate to add a 5th bedroom, and I shared an email with you guys, and I've got mixed message coming back from you guys. So Councilmember Diener, many have said a fifth bedroom would be a great idea to shrink the size of the garage. Councilmember Diener raised a question related to, there's only 2 parking stalls in the driveway, and planning staff indicated that we would need, for the fifth bedroom, we would need more parking. Been told by Housing Kitsap there's sufficient property to the side of the garage that we could add parking, so that can be addressed. Councilmember Chardy, though, raised a very good question, I think in the last day or two he shared with me, related to the resale value of the house. So I hope this works, but if it doesn't work, and we went to sell this house, and we've made the garage a fifth bedroom, have we affected the resaleability of that house? So not to cloud the issue, does that change anybody's opinion about the fifth bedroom that wants the fifth bedroom?
Do we know
Mr. Mayor?
how it would affect the
Are you saying
saleability?
Go ahead, explain that.
Just that it wouldn't have a garage.
No, I understand what the changes are, but do we know what effect that would have? Have we talked to a real estate?
I haven't.
Agents
It was
or
just a
anything to see?
question that was
Yeah, I think
raised.
it's a valid question that we need to, but I don't know that, I'm certainly not qualified to answer that.
The other point I brought up that you missed was just, I think this is a great idea and it's a great test run for us. And to me, I would like to see a manageable number as well. And by adding a fifth bedroom, more people, I just think that's a lot of people under one small roof. And so for this to kind of be our beta to see how it works, so I offered both of those as potential questions, and maybe leaning towards leaving it as a 4-bedroom house.
And that was my comment as well, I think, when I responded, is that 2 persons per bedroom, now we're talking 10 people.
It's one person per
It's
bedroom.
1 person per bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's either 4 people or 5 people that we're assisting.
okay. Yeah.
So Councilmember Rosapepe?
I'll ask Mr. Bond a question, because I can only say from my limited experience, but it's easier to convert a garage to a bedroom than a bedroom to a garage. So if we needed to go that route, I mean, where we wanted to put a fifth bedroom in, we could do it.
If we're adding the fifth bedroom, we're adding a full bath in the bottom. It's not going to be easily converted back to a garage.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying is it's easier to go the other way if we ever down the road.
This works, I'd rather do it again.
Yeah, let's test drive.
Protect the integrity of the house.
Yeah, I could stay with 4.
So I'm hearing 4. Who'd like to see 4?
Going with majority.
Okay, staying with 4. That's, we're spending we're going to spend some money on the design, and I just want to make sure we don't redesigning it. This is more than a year away. We're about to apply. We have a meeting next week, I think, or is it this week, with the county staff related to the grant that we're pursuing and that process. It's on your calendar, trust me. Go ahead.
I was also going to comment that people have a lot of stuff, whether it's motorcycles, bicycles, that kind of thing. The garage is supposed to be used for storage. Otherwise, a lot of that will probably end up outside, and there may be issues. And I'm not convinced that people won't have cars, even though you think they won't.
I don't know they may be using the car, you're right. And we wouldn't completely not have a garage, and I think I hear we're going 4. But it would have been a smaller garage than a car would have fit in for the bicycles and the storage. But I'm fine with it either way, and what I'm hearing, let's stick with the 4-bedroom. We're still gonna put a half bath downstairs, because we do have 1 bedroom in the basement. So it's a sloped lot, it's 3-story house, so. Okay, Councilmember Chang?
I'm excited that we are doing something like this. From the 2 Homes of Compassion homes that I visited, there was one on Fircrest and one on Garrison. What happened is that they actually were converting family rooms into an additional bedroom. So this is maybe something that they may just do on their own, where they just make an ad hoc room for someone to stay in on their own.
Probably not, because it's our house.
It'll be our house.
Create the rules.
But the reason they do that is because there is a shortage of rooms, and they really need, every extra room is actually a benefit. So that was why I was advocating for 5 bedrooms.
All right, I'll let Housing Kitsap know to proceed with a 4-bedroom design. You're seeing, the governor has called for the special session. I'm still skeptical whether or not there's going to be, I'm speaking to the drug possession. And there's been communication with the police chiefs, with the mayors and the county commissioners, with the county prosecutor. I think where we want to be, if the state can't come to a statewide state law, that we want at least, if we can, the drug possession law to be the same throughout Kitsap County. You're seeing, though, many cities pass their own, and and talking to some of those mayors, it's posturing, and showing this, the state, we are going to take action. Now, Charlie doesn't work for free. We could posture and have her work on a similar ordinance, and you could take action, and it's really more a political statement, because I don't think we want to have something's different than the rest of Kitsap County. And I certainly hold out hope that we're going to have a state law, but I'm skeptical. So I just want your feedback, whether we should be passing our own ordinance, probably a political statement, and if the state doesn't get there, that we're going to work on a county-wide ordinance. Councilmember Clausen?
I guess I'm confused as to exactly what you're suggesting. What I thought I heard initially was that we adopt our own rules for our own city, but we would adopt our rules to be consistent with what's being adopted in the other cities in the county. So we're all the same. What I think you might have said at the end, I want clarification, is that we would allow Kitsap County to adopt an ordinance that would cover us?
No. What I'm trying to say is, if we can come to an agreement with countywide,
All the cities in the county.
all the cities in the county,
Okay.
we would individually pass our own ordinance,
Right.
and they would mirror each other.
Yes.
Okay? That is the second best alternative to the state passing a law.
Right.
Okay? What I'm saying is, some cities out there are making a political statement and passing their own ordinance today, so that, trying to prompt the state to take action, because if you're not going to do it, my God, we're going to do it. So do we want to make that type of a message, or do we want to sit back and wait to see if the state takes action and then work collaboratively with the county and the other cities? Councilman Clausen?
Well, I'm
Charlie,
kinda-
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I had my hand up as well.
I wouldn't be so presumptuous to say that we would necessarily conform with all the other cities. I think we need to do what's best for the city of Port Orchard, and so maybe the hybrid here is for us to take the lead in contacting these other jurisdictions and being kind of the trailblazer to get this going, and perhaps maybe we can get that together now, and then as a county in all of our cities, not only is it politically posturing, but we're getting, I think, we're helping to drive the outcome of that versus to sit back and watch others drive it. But I think it's important that we do it collaboratively. We obviously just had a meeting a couple weeks ago where the county was trying to do something without collaborating with us, and so in fairness back to them, why don't we be the lead agency to bring these people together and see if we can't work on something that would be amenable to the jurisdictions.
There's some model ordinances out there.
Right.
And it won't be a felony. Even if we pass something, if the state passes a law, then it's going to trump our ordinance, and we'll have probably rescind it. So, Councilmember Clausen?
I was going to say kind of the same thing, other than, I don't have a problem with us taking the lead, but I don't think that we need to sit back and wait to see what the state does. I think we can be proactive and start looking for common grounds amongst our jurisdictions, so that if the state doesn't do it in a timely fashion, we're already down the path to implement our own collectively.
Other thoughts? Councilmember Chang?
What are the other cities that are doing these model ordinances? And I was wondering if our chief had any comments on us having an ordinance different from the rest of the county.
It would be challenging to have something different than the rest. I'll let the chief speak to it, but.
Ms. Archer may be appropriated to this too. I think challenging would be a good word. It means which side of the sidewalk you're standing on is going to be the legal expectations. I don't think that, well, this is just my opinion, I don't think that it would be wise for us to not collaborate with the other jurisdictions. I think that people need to know when you come to Kitsap County, this is the expectation. While I agree with Councilmember Clausen, we want to do the best for, maybe it was Councilmember Cucciardi, we want to do the best for our citizens. I don't know if that gets accomplished if we have something different than Bremerton and different than Poulsbo and different than the county.
Councilmember Rosebevy.
I just wanted to say, I think it expires July 1st, correct?
Correct.
And I'm more of the wait and see approach. In other words, I don't feel like we have to pass something next council meeting. I think it's more of working as I believe Sean was saying, start working with everybody, but then wait and see what's happening at the state level with the representatives as opposed to that. And I do agree with the chief. I'd rather see a holistic approach to the county than an individual approach. And I do agree with what you said, Mayor, that some people are doing it as a posturing for political gain when it needs to be more realistic.
Well, and I just shared too, well, there's a state law, it's a mess and it's not enforceable. Even though it expires July 1st, we basically don't have a drug possession law now because what we have isn't enforceable. So if it trailed beyond July 1st, I don't think it's the end of the earth, but I'll be very disappointed in our legislature. But I kind of was anyway in the work they did on pursuits. But Councilmember Clausen.
Yeah, I think, I appreciate what you're saying, Jay. I personally think it's terribly optimistic to think that we're going to get something agreed upon in the county in 2 weeks or a month. I think it's going to take us a while, and that's why I'm suggesting that we should start now. Yes. And we should start looking for the common grounds and whatever so that we can develop something, so we're not waiting until July before we even start that process.
And those conversations are happening, trust me. We're already doing it.
Wonderful.
It's the question is, and Councilmember Cucciardi kind of indicated we should we pass our own ordinance or wait on the county or the state? That's where.
I don't think we should pass our own. I think we should get everyone together to see if we can come up with a countywide deal. And advance that quicker.
Yeah.
If we get to July 1st and nothing happens, it would be nice to have worked over the next 7 weeks to be out ahead of it. That's all.
Agreed. I
Do it
think
collaboratively, but we can be the lead agency, pick up the phone and maybe supply the first draft.
Okay, so, well, the ball is in our police chief and our attorney's hands now to push. I've been pushing on it a bit. I gathered Kent's ordinance, shared that with the other mayors and the county commissioners. So that there is conversation happening, and we'll try to push that and make sure that we're not waiting. So, all right, thank you for that dialogue. Last thing I have is just as I'm required by policy to inform you of any job description changes. So we're working on our salary survey and continuing to update job descriptions. So we updated the Public Works Office Assistant 2 job description and the Public Works Foreman job description here recently. So, and that ends my mayor's report. So department heads, Mr. Lang?
I have nothing additional to report tonight. Thank you.
Paving was enough. Ms. Lang, Lund?
Nothing from me either, thank you.
Bond?
Nothing.
Archer?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Let's go to Ms. Wallace first,
Andy.
because I know that she has something.
I have nothing either.
All right, Chief, you got the floor.
I always have something, you guys know that. I wanted to give a shout out to both sides of staff, both administrative services and operations, for an incident that happened yesterday. We had a threat to our high school called in. It was called into our front desk as opposed to 911. Our staff had the presence of mind, so the initial person that took the phone call quickly put it on speaker. She's actually got a background in banking, so she's familiar with threats and things, so she put it on speaker so that she could keep the person engaged while her partner called 911. We do not dispatch out of our office, and there were no officers in there. When it was dispatched, we had officers on scene within 2 minutes. We ended up having a total of 22 law enforcement officers from all neighboring agencies show up. We set up a command post in the parking lot, and our sergeant started directing resources. We ended up searching and securing the entire main structure and all of the outbuildings, and then coordinating with the school. We were very fortunate that the school was actually out. I think there was one student inside for some extracurricular activity, but it just shows what good training, tactics, leadership, and equipment that we have that they can do that. These are very, very rare. It's high risk, low frequency, and they did an exceptional job. In addition to that, we did have our General Investigations Unit respond. We also had our PIO respond. We had a statement out to the media and on our social media within an hour. I can tell you that from my past experience when we didn't have that, and I'll throw a little bit of credit at Brandy, I said, hey, this is going to be to you in 20 minutes so that she could get home on time. And then I called her in 25 and said, go home, we'll get it to you as soon as you can. But she was able to get it out. That, I think, was able to put a lot of concern to bed from parents. I didn't receive a single phone call today from anyone who was who had kids in the school district, because I think we did a good job last night of getting that out. But mostly a shout out to all of the officers and staff that were working yesterday. It was handled really, really well. I will never give us an A+ because we can always improve, but I think it was absolutely an A response.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Chief. Anything else? I guess that's enough. All right. So we're to our last citizen comment period. Is there anyone wishing to address the council? And anybody online, you could use the raise your hand feature. Going once, going twice.
We've got a hand up.
Got a hand up? Oh, there we go. I couldn't quite see it. Go ahead and bring that person into the meeting if you could.
I think she just has to unmute yourself, Sharon. You should be able to talk.
You can identify yourself for the record when you get
I
yourself
had to
unmuted.
unmute myself.
There you
I just
go.
wanted to say thank you for your approval of our events going forward. And it's been a pleasure to sit here and actually hear you so well over my computer. So it's nice. But anyway, again, thank you. And I'm expecting applications for the grand parade from all of you. Just wanted to remind you, have a nice night and enjoy this wonderful hot weekend coming.
All right. Thank you, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else wishing to address the council? I don't see anybody else online in the audience. All right. We're going to, our meeting is adjourned.